Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. Always a pleasure and a privilege when we get together on these updates. And so thankful for all of you who join us, who share the links. And we are thankful for those of you that are helping us get past the algorithms and get on to the social media and email boxes of other brothers and sisters in Messiah, so that we can all take that 10,000 foot view, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to kind of step back from the emotion, from the anxiety of the day, and take that 10,000 foot view from the scriptural lens, so that we can look at things as they are fulfilling scriptural prophecy. And as a result, we will be calmer and we will understand where we are, as opposed to being like those in the world that are tossed to and fro by the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things. So thank you to all of you who join us for these updates. We certainly appreciate it. Always grateful for those of you that join us on the chat. And again, those of you who share the links, we really appreciate that, because it's really getting harder and harder. Even no matter what we do, it gets harder and harder to reach other remnants. So you guys are all precious. You're hard to find. You're hard to connect with. And so appreciate one another. Amen and amen. And speaking of appreciating, we are thankful for the members of Remnant House that make this broadcast possible. And through that diligent and faithful service of our brethren, we were able to put this together. And Remnant Watch is the site that we use to keep all of our stories and things that we're keeping track of. Guys, this banner right here will always take you the latest update. And there's a search bar for any of the stories that we've covered. So we certainly encourage you to do that and to bookmark the site, because it is very valuable. It's a great resource, and it's helpful as a ready reference, especially if you're witnessing to people, if you're encouraging them, if you're talking to them about something that happened and that correlates to Bible prophecy, right? And you're able to quickly find it by doing a quick search and find the article that correlates. It's very helpful, and it helps us awakening our brothers and sisters out there. It awakens people as they see the day approaching. And that's exactly what we're supposed to do. And all the more, he says. And so we're supposed to exhort and encourage. That's what exhort means. Encourage one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching. And how would we see the day approaching if we're not watching, right? That's why the remnant watch. I know that's deep, but stay with me. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story might not be a top story you might have chosen. As a matter of fact, many people might have chosen the trade war, which is, of course, going on, or the various things going on with AI, or things going on in Eastern Europe, or perhaps things going on in Iran or the Middle East or something. But if you don't understand what's going on, these distractions are to keep you from seeing the real threats that you have. And what many people do not know is how weaponized this particular curse actually is. And so here, this top story. This is a weaponized curse, folks. Billionaire wants to build a statue of the Virgin Mary taller than Christ the Redeemer. So Christ the Redeemer is the one in Brazil. An iconic statue of Christ the Redeemer in Brazil could soon be dwarfed by a new statue of Jesus's mother. A Polish billionaire and his wife have announced plans to build a statue of the Virgin Mary in his home country, measuring a huge 180 feet tall. And of course, this is again the kinds of things that people overlook. And you may say, well, why is this news? Why does this matter? Because according to Exodus chapter 20, the same chapter where you have the 10 commandments, okay, the exact same chapter, just keep reading, you will find that there is a 4-generation curse on anyone who stands in front of one of these things. And so right there, you're going, oh, wow, did not know that. Yes, all the rest of their witchcraft is dependent upon you polluting yourself. So everything else is a distraction to get you to curse yourselves, which is the error of Balaam. That's exactly what the error of Balaam is. And why are they trying to get you desperately to curse yourselves? Because they even know, folks, and they're not they're awake. The scripture tells us that your enemy comes down with great wrath, knowing that he has but what? A short time. Whose clock is this? Is this your and my clock? Are we on some kind of clock? Do you and I have not eternity? Are we not forever? Okay, so who's got a countdown clock? See, they get you to think that that's your countdown clock. If they get you attached to their world, then you think it's your countdown clock. But it's not your world, it's their world. And they're the ones with the doomsday clock, which is moving 1 second closer to midnight, right? And what is Armageddon? That is the confrontation with Yahusha. Yahusha, they say it like a bad thing because they intend to oppose him upon his arrival. Remember that all the armies of the earth oppose him. So it comes at last year, the clock remains at 90 seconds with conflicts in Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, and increasing tensions between China and Taiwan cited as reasons for the stagnant clock hand. But the re-election of the vicious figures may have contributed to this year's decision, with Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, and Nicolas Maduro all taking office again. And so we are in difficult days. And yes, we are. But we cannot put our head in the sand and just wish them away. We are the people who must be sober and vigilant. I mean, we're the ones that are supposed to be telling the truth or speaking the truth in love. Now, the threats, many times, many are looking around at militaries and what have you. And while there are very serious military threats, I believe the greatest threat we have is this artificial intelligence that is now sweeping the world and even the Vatican, which I believe is literally being destroyed systematically by the Masonic plan that they're unfolding. So this is part of the plan, was a destruction of what they called Christianity. And Vatican warns AI could undermine the foundations of society. That's exactly what it's intended to do, and bring in a brand new religion. So the Vatican published a news text on artificial intelligence on Tuesday, warning the tool could destroy the trust in which societies are built while humans become cogs in a machine. And of course, many times what they're doing with the warnings is they're actually telling you what they're doing. Pope Francis, regular victim of fake news and doctored photographs, cautioned earlier this month that AI could be misused to manipulate minds. And the Vatican text elaborates on his thinking. And, there's no question about it that that the Vatican is most certainly going to be complaining about their own demise. But I don't think it's coming as a result of AI. I think it's coming as a result of our eyes, the eyes of the remnant, as they're opening and awakening to the reality of the world that we are in. So those who are without Mashiach, those who are without hope in the world, have a very different outlook, right? So they're looking more doomsday. So they think more doomsday, like, oh man, we're coming in for doomsday. Well, their doomsday is your celebration day. Remember that. And China, in fact, this is another headline I saw with the same words. Whenever we see these words, we key in on those words because they're saying something, right? And so we look for patterns and indicators that we're coming in for various events. China is building a doomsday command 10 times bigger than the Pentagon. The complex would be the world's largest military command center, including bomb-proof bunkers for leaders, say U.S. intelligence officials. And China's military is building a massive complex in western Beijing that U.S. intelligence believes will serve as a wartime command center far larger than the Pentagon, according to current and former American officials. And what I believe is China was preparing, and perhaps still is, preparing to usurp the American role as policeman of the world. And they had full intentions of reestablishing military power and control under a Chinese type of dictatorship throughout the world. As you all saw coming in, many of the various control mechanisms and social control mechanisms were first debuted in the Far East before they were going to be migrated all the way to the West. And unfortunately for them, those things, once they got leaked and came out, were no longer as attractive, right? So they lost a lot of that power, if you will. And one of the things that's starting to happen right now is a real strong push toward freedom. And the greater the pushes that you see toward freedom, the greater that you're going to see efforts by the wicked to get more and more aggressive. So I want you to think like you're getting free from an abuser. If you've ever, those of us who have been in either abusive relationships or been abused, either as a child or, overcome a bully, there's a process involved, and at the end of that process, when you're finally pushing away, when you're finally disconnecting, is the most dangerous. Is when they realize they're losing control and they will act the most erratically. At least that's been my experience. And so that's where we are. We are in the point where the abusers are losing total control. Their victims are getting free and are running away from that abuse. And as a result, the aggressive pursuit, the aggressive control matrix doesn't know quite how to react. And we've all seen it. Anybody who's been in a bad relation or helped somebody get out of a bad relationship has seen how toxic, how entitled the abuser becomes toward their victim. And so this is something that we are all witnessing in various ways. And the day of the abuser, the day of the narcissistic, psychopathic, psychotic control matrix, all of that is dying. That's the doomsday. Their doomsday has come. And so this is a very good thing. And so I don't think we have as much to worry about in terms of military, although that is a factor in certain parts of the world. It is more these other things that are meant to confuse your mind and get you to pollute yourself. Very, very dangerous, folks. This is where the enemy would deceive even the very elect. And they continue to distract us with things like this. Iran secretly building nuclear sites that can hit Europe. And again, Iran has yet to demonstrate in my entire lifetime any desire to shoot off missiles and do those kinds of things at any of the European states. So again, a lot of this is speaking as if they know things that have never been proven or demonstrated to my knowledge. So it's interesting conclusions. Revolutionary Guard aerospace experts working on warheads with 3,000-kilometer range at two sites disguised as satellite launch bases, say exiles. And Iran is developing nuclear missiles with a range of 3,000 kilometers. Doesn't matter if they are or aren't. Doesn't matter if they're doing it for good or bad reasons. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad guys. Doesn't make any difference. The fact is they're putting this in the narrative because they intend to do something about it. They're not putting this in the narrative just to inform you. They're not putting this in the narrative to show you their fancy graphics or how well their satellites work. They're putting this in the narrative, basically letting Iran know and letting the world know that they're only going to put up with this for so long. And then at some point, you're going to see all these things just blow up. And when they blow up, it'll be because they told you, well, these are all bad things. And again, that used to be one-sided, I don't know that it's going to still be one-sided. So this is a very dangerous time that we're walking into. And again, these AIs are not our friends. Now the U.S. Navy. So now there's a competition between AIs going on. Have you seen this, guys? The U.S. Navy is banning the use of DeepSeek, which is, of course, the Chinese version of ChatGPT, and it is cheaper. So there's that. But DeepSeek is due to security and ethical concerns. They're not allowing it to be used, and the U.S. Navy issued a warning to its members to avoid using DeepSeek in any capacity due to its potential security and ethical concerns. And the warning was sent out on Friday as a buzz about the Chinese artificial intelligence startup was picking up across the tech industry. And yes, it's picking up because it's less expensive and that's become an income model. So those that are working on remote income, doing a variety of tasks using AI, are going to go with the most inexpensive model to accomplish their goals. So this is a game changer, and that's why you saw the tech sector take such a big hit last week in the stock market. And as a matter of fact, you saw a significant correction along with the tariffs. So that kind of came at the same time that you had the tariff news that came out. So this became a really interesting weekend. But I think a lot of it is just positioning, folks. It looks to me like, and as we go through these, I think you'll see it. I think it looks to me like it's just a bunch of chess, a little theater going on. Okay. But back to this AI, OpenAI safety researchers are issuing a chilling warning about very risky gamble with huge downside. So this is, when people start leaving and saying, I've got to tell everybody what's going on, you know how long they wait before they do that? So an OpenAI safety researcher has labeled the global race toward AGI a very risky gamble with huge downside for humanity as he dramatically quit his role. Stephen Adler joined many of the world's leading artificial intelligence researchers who have voiced fears over the rapidly evolving systems, including artificial general intelligence, which can surpass human cognitive capabilities. Adler, who led safety-related research and programs for product launches and speculative long-term AI systems for OpenAI, shared a series of concerning posts to X while announcing his abrupt departure from the company on Monday afternoon. An AGI race is a very risky gamble with huge downside, the Post said. Additionally, Adler said that he is personally pretty terrified by the pace of AI development. I have to agree. You're weaponizing information amongst people who are intelligence challenged to begin with, and it is all too easy to rely on artificial intelligent answers, even though they are replete with error. And we test that all the time. I'm telling you, they are replete with error on technical things. When you are, especially when if you're building websites, you're using it for PHP code or using it for decoding, if you're using it for decoding or what have you, they make errors like crazy. They give you links that are invalid. They do all kinds of things that are not correct. So the concern that these researchers are expressing is valid not just from the standpoint of its impact, but also from the standpoint of the reliance of people on the information as if it's accurate. This is very dangerous, okay, very dangerous, and can be very, very weaponized. And again, remember that the enemy looks to cause you to defile yourself. So anything you make an idol turns into a 4-generation curse. The Exodus 20. So we have to pay attention to what's going on. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's changing is Trump's orders in the military. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to that, but Trump has issued a number of orders affecting the military. He's got an Iron Dome coming in. We're going to talk about that. And he's changing the way in which all of it works. Executive orders appear to be going beyond the existing system, call for development of new space-based defenses. So they're going beyond just restoring the American fighting force and getting rid of some of the woke policies. I think you guys saw some of those. So there's definitely some change going on there. And it's coming in quick. It's not taking a lot of time. So this administration is hitting the ground running, and that's getting a lot of people thinking, where are we headed? And if you smell some double crosses, well, you're smart, because not everything is as it seems. And so we need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. You've already seen some flip-flops, haven't you? You've already seen some, I'm surprised at some of what I've read or heard. All of a sudden, things that were absolutely unacceptable just not very long ago were now negotiable. Wow, that changed. Okay. So scary times. And if you've heard recently, the president suggesting that the Palestinians just pretty much pack it up. Um, that was a really interesting point of view, and it hasn't gone away. And as a matter of fact, that win, this Trump win, has sparked hope for the Jewish sovereignty on the Temple Mount, and they're expecting that he's going to lend a lot of support to their single state as opposed to a two-state solution. So it looks like, from all appearances, that they've taken a big step backward in terms of solving some of those issues. So I expect the reaction to come in the Middle East to be severe, because this is going to start to percolate. Israelis from the left and right, religious and secular, collectively side with relief and overwhelmingly rejoice in Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris, okay? Because they all believe that he is going to unilaterally support the Zionist state. Now, he's already made some very, very clear statements about anti-Semitism. And so he made it very clear that anybody that conducts or is involved in anti-Semitism, and I think what he means by that is, like overtly and aggressive anti-Semitism, which I think anti-anything, aggressive in the way that a lot of times things come out is not good. Nevertheless, it's a very interesting moment to watch, because this is square into the theater of operations and square into the last days. So we do need to be paying attention here as these things unfold. And so we can't just sleep on this, folks. We really just can't. And of course, you've all heard about the tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. So 3 countries, Canada, Mexico, and China, spurring a trade war as North American allies respond. And so President Donald Trump on Saturday signed an order to impose tariffs. Of course, there's updates today, but this is important to know that he imposed tariffs on imports from Mexico, China, and Canada. And so far, he's gotten concessions from Mexico and Canada. And I'm pretty sure he's going to get them from China too, because as we saw last week, China is not looking so good. China is not doing as good as they would like you to believe they are. It's drawing swift retaliation, of course, and there was all this hoopla in the news. And, everybody is talking about that. Okay. Well, the book of Daniel talks about a particular figure who subdues 3 kings. Particular figure who subdues 3 kings. Subdues. Very interesting word. And so one that we're keeping an eye on for obvious reasons. So then basically what happened, of course, we get the update that a lot of it was theatrical. But before he pulled that move, he made sure that everyone knew it was going to be painful, right? So look at this. This comes out. Oh, this was yesterday. Trump says Americans could feel pain in trade war with Mexico, Canada, and China. Okay, the trifecta. U.S. faces retaliation from Canada and Mexico. Experts warn of inflation, slower economic growth. Okay, Trump says tariffs will definitely happen with European Union. And boy, oh boy, it's affecting everybody, right? All right. This is all negotiation tactics, folks. It's all negotiation tactic. It's his way of making them feel the economic impact. And then as soon as they do, they're ready to talk, they're ready to negotiate, they're ready to discuss it. So what happens right away? Next thing you know, you see he lists the tariffs on Mexico, says we're going to give it 30 days, and we're going to spend a little time negotiating about the border and about keeping this border secure. And then he does the same thing with Canada. So it was all theatrics. Exact same thing. Talk about theatrics. Here's another thing that turns out looking more and more theatrical by the moment. This thing right here is looking real theatrical by the moment. Okay. American Airlines passenger jet with 64 people on board has crashed midair into a military helicopter while attempting to land in Reagan National Airport in Washington. And they're trying to say that a helicopter was 200 feet above its ceiling, and that it flew right into an oncoming airplane. And so that is what the story that we're being told We're also being told that they were warned ahead of time. So the plane, Army helicopter, was warned ahead of deadly class. Audio transmissions capture moment air traffic controls warned an Army helicopter that it was on course to collide. So they were told ahead of time, hey, you're on the wrong course. All right, it's a paywall. Sorry, guys. And so they were told, they were let know that they were headed in the wrong direction. Kept going. Okay. The night before, or the night the event occurred, I do recall, I haven't found them yet. Hopefully somebody out there can find it. But there was a report where 4 people survived, and then the next day there were no survivors. So no survivors expected after American Airlines plane and military helicopter collide near the airport. So we're all being distracted by this. And whenever there's big stuff like this happening, you always got to look at what else is happening at the same time to distract us all. Okay. And so this was in Arlington, Virginia. No one is expected to survive the collision between American Airlines plane and Army helicopter Wednesday near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, officials said. 64 people were on board. 8:48 p.m. is when it occurred. And as of Thursday morning, 28 bodies were recovered, including 27 from the plane and 1 from the helicopter. And so they were updating and, of course, letting family know. And it's a terrible tragedy, folks. I mean, we all regret or lament seeing these tragedies happen. But we also know that the curse is real. It's real. And that curse is manifesting in various ways. So we definitely have to be aware of the reality of the curse. And this plane crash also occurred in Philadelphia neighborhood, which killed 7, and several homes caught fire. So all of a sudden, we're seeing more and more air accidents and issues going on with air accidents, which I'm not really sure what that's all about, folks. If somebody can tell me why that is, I'd love to know. 6 passengers, a medical jet, and 1 person on the ground were killed after the plane crash in a Philadelphia neighborhood on Friday evening, officials said. And I want to tell you, the video that came out for that was hard to watch. It did not look like, it really didn't look to me like it was. It looked more like a. Let me see if I can get it here. Is this it? Let me add this. I think that's a different fire, folks. I did have a video on our discussion board. If you want to go over there, you can see it there. There is a video that outlines the actual plane or missile or whatever it was, something hit the ground and it exploded. So if you go over to our discussion board, it is posted. But yeah, it's nuts. And these fires and all the stuff that's going on, it's left and right. It's everywhere. And so we're definitely seeing a uptick of a lot of calamity, a lot of fire, a lot of destruction. Folks, the day has come. The day is upon us. As a matter of fact, maybe this is the reason why there's a lot of problems with the planes. Maybe this is the problem. Yes, it did look like a missile. The FAA is warning that their systems for pilots is down. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, said the FAA was using a backup system while it worked to address the problem. So perhaps this is the reason. To send real-time safety alerts to pilots late Saturday because its primary one was experiencing a temporary outage. And I got to wonder, especially with these federal layoffs, people being laid off and what have you, if there's a bit of a work slowdown or if there's perhaps some type of, counter move going on in government services, looking pretty sketchy. Okay. And as a matter of fact, did you guys know that this particular crash happened because this Black Hawk in DC was practicing a top secret continuity of government mission? So isn't that interesting? So this was part of a exercise called continuity of government, which means, the government's been attacked or destroyed, and you have to continue the government. The doomed military helicopter that collided with American Airlines flight over Washington, D.C. Wednesday night was conducting training to prepare for a catastrophic event or attack on the U.S., according to officials. The crew, so how does this help? I don't know. The crew aboard the UH-60 Black Hawk chopper, the 16th Aviation Battalion, is responsible for top secret evacuation missions meant to whisk top U.S. officials from D.C. to secure locations in the case of a national emergency, such as a terrorist or nuclear attack. How does that explain why this thing was anywhere near the airport? I don't know, other than the word transportation being a common denominator. I don't know what this thing had any business doing there, practicing evacuations. This makes it even worse. I don't think that actually helps. And so it's really sad that we continue to see this nonsense. And of course, they've identified all those that were involved. It's very tragic, very, very tragic. Something that is happening right now that I think may be the reason why they're covering some things up. And this might be a piece of news they don't want in the open. Okay. Also, Kash Patel's confirmation hearing may have been something they didn't want you paying too much attention to. He was asked some really pointed questions about what he might release. And boy, oh boy, was that interesting. But Trump moves to prepare Guantanamo Bay for 30,000 criminal illegal aliens. So notice what he's looking for are criminal illegal aliens. And this is an interesting distinction because, folks, they are not removing everyone. They are removing those who are criminals. So either they have criminal warrants in other countries or are already conducting crimes here in the United States during their stay. Trump says it's a tough place to get out of. Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Department of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing a 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. And that's like letting everybody who is in the United States illegally know that maybe now's a good time to go home. Now's a good time to go because they're not going to be nice. And so for the next few years, it's not going to be really a great, unless you're coming to work. If you're coming to work and you're coming to contribute, and you're coming to lend, you're coming to be a good citizen, then you're probably going to be fine. Because I'm going to share a report. They're not indiscriminately removing everybody. And so that's interesting. It was an interesting development today. I was kind of surprised. I thought it was just wholesale. It's not. And so those that are, I think what they're trying to do, remember he kept talking about meritorious and all this stuff. Well, they're applying some type of meritorious ruling here, which is interesting. So we're going to kind of keep an eye on this as it unfolds, because there's a lot of people that are protesting and maybe shouldn't be. So there's something to pay attention to. So it's really interesting. Did you hear about the F-35 fighter jet? So that's another plane that crashed in Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. The pilot is taken to the hospital. F-35 jets are estimated to cost around $80 million. And this was bad. I'll let you guys watch it yourselves. An Air Force pilot is in the hospital after an F-35 jet crashed at Eielson Air Force Base in Fairbanks, Alaska. And dramatic video will show that to you. And it is dramatic. I mean, thankfully the guy did eject, but you got to kind of wonder, like, what's going on with the aircraft? And is someone saying, hey, we have control of, these chips, and they're demonstrating their ability to bring planes down? I don't know. Are we just the spectators of a plot of a movie? Like that show 24? Who knows what kind of, who knows what we're watching here? We may never know. There's a lot going on in the aviation area. So United Airlines flight from Houston to New York evacuated after engine issue reported. So we're seeing a lot more of this than we've ever seen before, at least in this short a period of time. United Airlines flight from Houston to New York was evacuated after an engine issue was reported before takeoff, according to the FAA. The Houston Fire Department said in an X statement that they are on the scene and assisted the boarding the plane, which was departing from George Bush Intercontinental Airport and headed to New York's LaGuardia. No injuries were reported. So a lot of fear, though, being associated with flying now. A lot of keep you still, don't move around, lower the travel rate. I don't know. Something's going on, folks. We're going to keep an eye on this. I know we got a lot going on in the sky. We got a lot going on in the atmosphere in this year. There's various heavenly signs, solar, lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, lots of things going on this year. And by the way, so we were waiting for updates on the drones. Remember that, guys? The drones, the mysterious drones. And we're going, they're not really commenting on these. If they're enemy drones, shoot them down. Remember, Trump's like, shoot them down if they're enemy drones, right? Well, he cleared it up for Trump's update on New Jersey drones. This was not the enemy. Interesting. After months of speculation, the White House has confirmed that the drones spotted over New Jersey late last year were part of FAA-authorized research. Interesting. Well. The plot thickens. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, this was not the enemy, Trump's statement read. For research and various other reasons. And all the things they tell the public, unnecessary things they tell the public, what they were looking for, they did not tell the public. So this is interesting, okay? And a lot of things are changing geopolitically. Many of you have heard about Trump's interest in Greenland. And, of course, now that's a conflict that's starting to heat up. Now, we don't really understand this Greenland thing fully yet. I think that's going to become clearer as we go. But there's certainly some strategic value, resource value, and other reasons why this is becoming a political football. Heating up threat to deploy European troops to Greenland, and Danes announced a $2.2 billion military boost as EU says no negotiating with Trump. He may not give you a choice because America does have the power to just go take it. So this is going to be interesting. General Robert Brigger of Austria and top EU military officials said it would make perfect sense to station EU troops in Greenland. This would send a strong signal and could contribute to stability in the region. I don't think it would send much of a signal at all. I think that, asking the United States for a fight when you need the United States to defend you is not a good idea. So this is probably more theatrics and nonsense that we're watching. But nevertheless, very interesting. And what's up with Greenland? Interesting stuff, okay? And there's a lot of things that are changing in the government. Right away, Trump began to freeze a variety of different things. And the order, he started to freeze all of the foreign aid. And this really, really was a powerful move, by the way. You saw an immediate reaction because this is how a lot of things get funded, folks. This is what a lot of people are finding out, is that we've been deceived by people that play it fast and loose when it comes to the way in which government runs and what have you. And so what I think is happening is he's shooting across the bow of all these agencies and what have you that take advantage of, government loopholes. And I think he's just letting them all know that he knows where they are and like where their money is and all. That's very interesting. This whole Doge government accountability thing, this is going to be an interesting year for sure. Something that's not so good and not very interesting, and it's a very bad thing, is we're seeing diseases making massive comebacks that we thought we had defeated. And again, this is reflective, folks, of the curse. Kansas is facing one of the largest tuberculosis outbreaks in U.S. history. So far, there have been 67 confirmed cases of active TB, which is a serious outbreak. That is no joke. That's serious. That's a serious outbreak. Kansas is facing one of the largest recorded tuberculosis outbreaks in U.S. history. Yes, I've never heard of one that big, so that's a big one, according to local health officials and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. As of January 24th, there have been 67 confirmed cases of active TB, including 60 in Wyandotte County and 7 in Johnson County. So there's definitely a problem in this region of Kansas. So not everything is good in Kansas right now. But I do think that we're seeing more and more diseases. And if you remember, this is part of the judgments that are spoken of in the scriptures that would come in the last days. And so we keep an eye on these things to see, are we there? Are we about to see more and more of that? And this is, again, meant to encourage those that are on that fence to get on all the way over, get baptized in the name of Yahusha, and come all the way into the kingdom. And so this is important that we continue to do this. Remember, we talked about this. Here's that story I was telling you about. Trump orders a review to identify, punish, and deport anti-Semites. So those that are going to take shelter in the United States, you got to be on board with Israel. So he's making that a condition, which includes even students on visas. So you can't come over to the United States and preach anti-Semitism, which is, I think, what he's trying to basically shut down is people coming from countries that are, maybe Arabic or anti-Semitic, and then, coalescing in the United States. So there does seem to be some sense to that. But nevertheless, that's an interesting sentiment that is now taking hold, because that could be taken to go sort of the other way. In other words, forcing people to be pro something that they otherwise might not be, right? So this is a dangerous precedent for him to do. We're going to watch that one unfold. And there are other things that are, very, that people will applaud. Okay. So this one's easy to applaud because I think a lot of us, especially those with common sense, we read a headline like this and we go, duh. I mean, yeah. And the end, we're all done now. You don't make those kinds of decisions, right? So, I think that there's a lot of that we're going to keep seeing too. A lot of just things that are sort of, low-hanging fruit, no-brainer type of things that make sense. Like, for example, there were people that were complaining that Medicaid had stopped working, right? Well, I think, again, that might have been intentional because that wasn't covered in his order. But I think that in order to put shade on him, there were those who have control over buttons who decided to disable other systems intentionally. Medicaid reimbursement portals were down in all 50 states, not part of the order. So that should not have been down. So whoever put those down did that to make them look bad, I think. In all 50 states, after the Trump administration ordered a freeze on federal grants and loans. See, that's what he ordered a freeze on. So why in the world would you touch this? You wouldn't, unless you're trying to make him look bad for doing that. That's what I think. The shutdown and access to the Medicaid system came a day after the acting Office of Management and Budget Director issued a memo ordering a temporary pause of agency grant loan and other financial assistance programs. Okay. Well, that's not a program. That's an entitlement. And that entitlement was paid for or prepaid for through the work of the American worker. So again, in a different category. So, this is something that we are going to continue to see, I think, a little bit of back and forth. I think that's why he gave the order that those that want to just get out of the government can get out with an 8-month, severance and what have you, because they risk just being fired, eliminated, completely. So I do think that you have some diehards in there that don't really care about any of that, and they're going to go out kicking and screaming. So this is going to get interesting for like this whole year. I think it's going to take 6 months. You're probably looking at July before you really see the impact. The true Trump effect will probably not be seen until midsummer, because he's got to get all his confirmations in. Then he's got to deal with China. Then he's got to negotiate with, the central bank to bring in the republic. And he's got to negotiate with Canada and Mexico, as well as Australia, New Zealand. And again, there's just a lot more there than you may realize. So very interesting thing. In the meantime, again, we're seeing more curse level of disease, which is just very, very scary stuff, folks. 9 dead in a new outbreak of eye bleeding virus. And this, again, speaks of, I think of the prophecy in Zechariah when I see something like this, right? I go, whoa, what are we looking at here? With a 90% mortality rate, Wow, that's a scary thing. 9 people have died in a new outbreak of an eye-bleeding Ebola-like virus. Global health chiefs have warned. Marburg, one of the deadliest pathogens ever discovered, has already infected 10 people in the African nation of Tanzania. So we are seeing efforts. I think there's those that want to bring and spread those kinds of. So I wonder about some of these outbreaks, if they're actual outbreaks or if they're failed, they're experiments that went crazy, right? Do you guys ever wonder that, if when you see these outbreaks, you're like, was that an actual natural outbreak, or did you guys let something out and it started to affect people? So you got to kind of wonder that. I don't know. I wonder it. Maybe I just have been through maybe too many conspiracies have been confirmed that now we ran out. We need more. Right. So that could be it. And speaking of more things happening, how about the wildfires that are breaking out in Western North Carolina as they're trying to recover from Helene, and they're still not done recovering from that, but they're not getting a break. Firefighters in Western North Carolina are battling multiple wildfires now. Okay. Wildfires. And this is another one of those crazy things that we are starting to see more and more. And guys, this stuff is here. I got to remove this. I'm going to add another video too. I definitely got to show you guys this stuff. This stuff is crazy. I got to mute it because the guy lets loose some, colorful language. But this is in Arizona. And look at this. This is a sky laser of some sort. And this was just a month ago. And it was recorded. I don't know how they recorded it, but they did. So the stuff. This is Book of Revelation. Fire coming down from heaven stuff. So when we start seeing fires breaking out in various places, well, we definitely got to ask questions, because there's stuff going on that, again, the scripture warned us would happen in the last days. That literally fire from heaven. Fire coming down from heaven. Revelation 13, guys. He warned us about that. So again, this is a big deal. Speaking of big deals, I don't know if you guys know this, but there are those that believe that there's an eruption imminent off the coast of California and Oregon. So this is actually a big deal. Will the coast be toast? And increase the seismic activity has prompted predictions that a mile-wide submarine volcano named Axial Seamount will erupt near the United States West Coast by year's end. What? The eruptions are pretty big. Chat with a volcanist in Oregon State University who studies fire spouting formations told Coin. And so there's a lot of concern. I told you guys about this, that this area just off the coast of Oregon is of grave concern. So we've got a story there for you to look at. And again, more and more things that are very, very concerning going on in our world. This is one I should have mentioned earlier, so I want to throw it in there. IT issues trigger brief ground stop for Frontier Airlines. So another airline issue that got stopped because of IT. Or is AI hacking? I mean, what's going on here is a question I think we're all asking. I think there's so much shaking going on at the same time, and a lot of it has to do with light. So who knows what's really happening if we're just catching, evil is being caught and no longer can function normally. Speaking of what I think has been evil and has certainly resulted in a lot of death and destruction, this war in eastern Ukraine may be finally winding down, as they're starting to figure out that the money wasn't really going where it was supposed to be going. This is getting dicey as it goes. Zelensky is claiming now the rats are all turning on each other. Zelensky's claiming that Ukraine received less than half of U.S. aid. I don't know where all that money went. Ask your drug dealer. I don't know. Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky said that his country has received around $76 billion in aid from the United States, despite America authorizing around $175 billion. Are you kidding me? So we're missing $99 billion. Billion, not million, $billion. Some of this stuff you can't even read. It makes you want to just throw something at the television, right? So you can't deal with it. And so this is reality, folks. They absolutely play games with it. And, these guys drain the coffers, and then they want the Americans to just keep funding it. And one thing I have to say for Mr. Trump, it's about time somebody says, you're going to pay some tariffs. And the EU, of course, is warning Trump it will retaliate. I don't think he cares. He's going to continue to put them back in their shoes because he knows they need him more than he needs them. And this is the right time for him to negotiate the best possible deals to to protect the future. So he's being smart. Put them on their heels, make them feel pain, and come up with a better plan, because funding their entire military or protecting them while they don't care about your borders and your situations, well, that needs to end, right? So a lot of things are changing in our world. By the way, folks, you got to be really careful with the things that you're consuming out there. A lot of these drinks and things that people are consuming to get through their workday, they're very dangerous. And this story I'm about to share with you, I just want to encourage all of you who are maybe powering down energy drinks, thinking it's no big deal. Be careful with this. A woman, 20 years old, is fighting for her life with organ failure after consuming a drink loved by millions of people. I don't even know about this drink. I never even heard of it. But a 20-year-old gym goer was left fighting for her life after she consumed a popular energy drink and then went into cardiac arrest while working out. And so be careful. Jasmine Garza was finishing her weighted deadlifts along her boyfriend, Isaac Ayala, when she began feeling lightheaded and dizzy. And she had just drank 1/3 of a can of Ghost. Really, folks? Really? Ghost? A caffeinated energy drink. I can't help you when you drink things that are called Ghost. I mean, so there's a lot of things that you really, I saw some names I don't even want to repeat that I'm like, you drank that? Why would you drink that? So we do need to use our good discernment, especially now, because they put anything in a can. They can put anything in a can, and the repercussions are very small. See people going to jail for accidental poisonings. It just doesn't happen. You just don't see massive sentencing. So a lot of financial incentive, low correction. Be careful. And as I told you, a lot of this was theatrics. So Trump did pause the tariffs on Canada, the imports, for 30 days, because what did he really want? Well, he really wanted tougher controls over the border. So basically, that's what he asked for from them. They basically agreed on that, and they're essentially just tightening up the border. And so he used the tariff threat to bring them to the table, and it's a very serious threat. And he's also testing to see the reception level of the public to the concept. And so some of this is probing, but I do believe that some of it is very real. I don't believe Canada can function without subsidies. I think they'll go broke. And certainly in the short term. And so they are being heavily incentivized to join a North American Union, maybe a new republic. You'll have to start a new republic anyway. Maybe a good idea. And so again, more and more people, I got another update on this tuberculosis story. So again, people are dying out there from that. Did you hear about the AI robots? Real quick before we let you go, robot firm to ship 100,000 AI robots that will learn complex human roles, but not fight. Oh, they're not going to fight, though. They're not going to fight. So don't worry about that, because they're going to be good guys. Yeah, they're going to all be good guys. Where have you heard this before? That look like iRobot? You guys go see the movie iRobot. No, they're good guys. They're good robots. They chop up your vegetables and clean up your room. A robotics company has announced a plan to ship 100,000 humanoid bots over the next 4 years. The news comes after Figure AI, who specializes in giving artificial intelligence a body, signed a contract with BMW last year, their first commercial customer. And so here we go, folks. We are seeing the incoming of the drones. Meanwhile, what's the effect on the real world, the human world? Well, the humans are losing their jobs. So Kohl's is cutting 10% of its corporate workforce. You're seeing this across the board as more and more employers are going to other means for employment, and some of them are using artificial intelligence. What they just say? They just sold those to a corporate partner, right? So they're no longer relying on humans. I mean, this is BMW. That's a big company, and they're going with robots. So we already knew that Amazon was using robots, although we saw one of them just deactivate himself. So, so that was bad. But nevertheless, it tells you the direction. Whether they'll be successful or not doesn't matter. It tells you the direction they want to go, which also tells you that they've deprioritized men and women, you and me. We've been deprioritized. And that's what makes things like this very dangerous, because we don't know if you don't know till after that you've been set up, right? So this is what makes this kind of stuff very dangerous. Coca-Cola issues an urgent recall over fears product may contain high levels of a chemical chlorate. Well, frankly, I think they should recall Coca-Cola permanently, and because it's got chemicals that degrease engines. I mean, so there's that. But anyway, I digress. Coca-Cola has issued an urgent recall over fears its products may contain high levels of all kinds of junk, including a chemical called chlorate. The manufacturer recalled drinks from European markets over elevated chemical levels. Food Standard Agency has also launched a probe into the products. Well, it's about time we put a probe into all those products. I think we should put them all under a microscope, if you ask me, and see what's really swimming around in there. Did you guys get a chance to see that video of the lipstick yet? Well, if you wear red lipstick, you probably don't want to watch that, because that will make you swear off lipstick the rest of your life. You'll never kiss another woman with lipstick again if you watch that video, because there's squiggly wigglies crawling around inside these things. And I believe that they have weaponized parasites. They have weaponized parasites. In fact, that fog, if you remember, guys, that fog that was on the East Coast, one of the reports that came out was that the fog had parasites in it. Can you believe that? Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine that? You're breathing in a fog. You don't even know what's in it, and it's got parasites right in the mist of the fog. I mean, they have absolutely, you said it, brother. They have absolutely weaponized parasites. So we are in a war for your health, and a definite war of attrition against you, who are trying to fight against it with good ingredients, good water, good food, good air. Unfortunately, if you're standing on their turf, well, they got the home field advantage. And that's what a lot of people are waking up to and realizing we may have been suckered into their little traps, if you will. So thankfully, people are waking up to that. Maybe you're one of them. And if you are, this is the time to band together with your brothers and sisters. This is a time for unity. This is the time, according to the scripture, to lay aside every weight and sin. So that means we take all of our petty offenses, all the things that upset us about one another, anything that you might be upset at somebody about, you can just put it aside. And you say, you know what? We got bigger fish to fry. Yeah, I didn't like that. Maybe you didn't like something I did. Maybe I don't like something you did. We'll figure that out later. We forgive one another. Right now, we got bigger fish to fry. We got bigger enemies out there. And so we need to put these petty offenses and petty things away, and we need to come together, because it is life and death. And we are starting to see that our enemies are certainly united. And so let us be sober and vigilant in this hour. That's my encouragement to all of you. Don't allow the distractions, the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, or the lust of other things come in and choke the word of the King in your life. Each of you have a purpose. Each of you were born with a reason. You are a solution to a problem. Go find that problem and solve it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. May the barakah of the Most High be upon each and every one of you. Good night.